I imagine as Asians, you must have really worked very, very, very hard. And
Yeah, definitely.
was that the life at the place?
So we were actually known as like that super Asian team that works super hard or something like that, because we were one of the only Asian teams, or like the only Southeast, we're definitely the only Southeast Asian team or the only East Asian team there. And we basically, I guess we played into the stereotype about working super hard, because we would spend most of our days in our room working, and we would book the time with the mentors that we wanted to meet, because we really wanted to focus. So like we went for the talks that we wanted to learn something from, but there were some talks where we were like, it would be good to know, but we don't need all of us to be there. So we sent one person to write notes. We just take the notes, like so Asian. And they were like, you guys just want to come here and just like milk all the information. I was like, but that's the point, right? When you're trying to give us the info. And then and we would basically try to attract the mentors to our rooms instead of going out, so that we don't waste time. We've had this like corner, we put a chair, put like tables, we bought snacks, fruits and things like that. So that's how the mentors actually come to the room and like, oh wow, you have snacks, you have fruits for me, and they just sit there and then they just start doing their work and chatting, and then they will overrun their time and give us more time. But they really partied a lot, and we actually missed out on a lot of the parties because we were so busy working, we were so tired. But we decided, we can party too. And we honestly wanted to show everyone like a good time, because we also wanted to remember, right? We were lucky enough to be one of the only team. We were actually the only team from London, or who had lived in London before. Right? The other UK team was from other parts of the UK. So we thought, what if we threw a house party in London? There's so many parties in the castle, but like there's no party in London. They always take every opportunity to get to visit London, because for most of them, it's their first time being in the UK. So I was like, one of our team members had a place in London, which was quite big and quite nice, and we could host a small like house party there. So we actually did that on like the week right before the accelerator ended, before the final week and the weekend. And I would say we partied a bit too hard. At one point, there's some guy who walked into the apartment building following our crowd that I don't think was supposed to be there. I think it was like a stranger or something like that. We found out later that he broke something, and then they blamed it on us. But it got a bit too crazy at one point, I think, because I think it was like 3 a.m. People were still going at it strong, like dancing in the living room. And we were like, okay, maybe it's time to like clear people out. And the thing is that I think everyone was too tired that they couldn't actually get to the castle back, because the castle was out of London, right? So it's an hour away. So not everyone can actually make it back. So everyone basically started finding their own little space on the living room to sleep, in the couch, underneath the tables, on the sofas, mats, mattresses. But it was a really fun night. And that actually had the unexpected effect. During the final rounds of the presentation, HULT Prize has this very good concept where when the judges debate or like deliberate, before they go into the deliberation room, they will turn around and the audience will be... So how it works is like this. They will always split you into groupings when you present. They will always select one or two best from like each grouping. And what will happen is that you will be the audience for the grouping that you're not in, so that you don't feel you need to say, because what will happen is that they will ask for peer feedback. So the judges will always actively ask for peer feedback. And the reason they put it like that is so that you don't give bad feedback, because you feel threatened by like, oh, this team's very good. So then you purposely shit talk them. So, but because it's like different rooms, you know that they have no implication on you. So they ask for peer feedback, and in the regionals or campus rounds, it's very quick. But in the castle, they can actually ask a lot more. Be like, look, you guys have lived with them for literally 6 weeks. If they invest in them, who do you think is going to invest? How are they like as people? Blah, blah, blah. So that party had the inadvertent effect where everyone would say, look, this rising team, they work super, super hard. They're definitely going to pull it off. And then they were like, but how are they as people? Oh, they're super fun as people as well. And like, they're super nice, they're super fun, but they also work super hard. And so it started to actually tick some boxes that we weren't aware of, because we honestly just started like, okay, like we also want to have some fun. I want to remember it. It was a very fun experience that we'll never forget.
That's so funny. I love that you managed to build such strong ties while being the most hardworking team. And the whole connection thing is so important, what you did, right? You guys started, you have no connections with the country, with agriculture, but you had to start building the connections with people. A lot of people who are just starting on a problem, they'll be like, how do I even start to get connected with those who are in the industry, the really high ranking, very knowledgeable people? What was your advice, if you will? How do you reach out?
So how we reached out was, to be honest, I think you have to be smart about how you reached out to it, how you do it. You have to also sort of understand what appeals to that person. Everyone will have an interest. It's about how can you appeal to their interest, right? It doesn't have to be their job. It can be their job that you're interested in, but it can be something else. Like maybe they like this sport, or maybe they like this particular kind of food, or they are also from the same university as you, or their son is from the same university, or something like that. You need to find a similar point. That's the first. And the second thing is, what we were quite lucky because HULT Prize, they have developed a platform that is very easily marketable because they have like UN, Bill Clinton, 1 million. So if you leverage it properly, you actually get into a lot of rooms, because you say, oh yeah, I'm participating in, I don't know, Bill Clinton's competition that he's looking to give $1 million to one of us and we're one of the contenders. So if you help us, then, you can be part of the journey, that kind of thing. And most of the time, people might not care, but some people actually will open the email and they'll read it. At worst, they will just direct it to someone. And that's how we started. I think, honestly, the secret is just to be brave. And I like to have this mindset to think like, okay, this person is behind the door of this building, but the main entrance isn't the only way you can get into this building. The purpose is just you want to get into this building. So that's your mindset. Nothing will stop you. You're just going to find all different ways, the fire escape, the window, the main entrance, the back door. And once you get in and you speak to that person, that's all you want to do, right? You will get in eventually. So I think that is something that I learned. You just have to have that mindset of nothing is going to really stop me. I'm not going to be deterred. I really want to meet you because I know what value I can bring to you and I know what value you can bring to me. And I think it'll be great if we can collaborate. So I want my opportunity to tell it to you.
And I think you also look at your own personal network, right? Your granddad helped to reach out to his friends who were farmers 30 years back and connect to you.
Yeah. So like that was very surprised. My granddad spoke to one of his friends who owned a mill and was in the rice business for the past 30 years. One day he just called me and like, Lincoln, yeah, the guy say he can meet you. When you want to go? And I was like, oh, really? They say, yeah, we can drive together to Kedah now. And I'm like, okay. I think it's also about making it known to your friends and family what you're doing, who you want to meet, because you never know who might know someone or who might know someone who might know someone. And just be diligent on following up on that. And don't be afraid to explore, because even some of my friends, right, from the president of the MSOC that got me the internship, I asked him and he was like, yeah, I actually have a family friend who sells machinery in the agriculture space. Let me go and ask him. And I called his cousin and I called the cousin's friend and we did actually meet him. We actually went to his facility and saw the machine being produced and things like that. I still keep in touch with him today.
You also have very surprising connections as well. So this happened just before the UN final presentation in September, where you were all practicing your pitch before going onto the final pitch. And then you met a security guard who basically helped to win the competition for you. How did that happen?
So I always feel that if I could write a book about one day of my life, it will probably be that one day about the UN finals, because so many things happened in that one day. Share
that day with us.
All right, to really give context, I have to give context about the day before. So the day before we had the rehearsals, before we had presented to the finals, one of our mentors, she told us that your presentation that helped you get into the finals is great. It's a good presentation. It's a solid presentation. But do you want to present a solid presentation to the youth finals because you only have one shot at it? You want to present it to Bill Clinton, or do you want to present the most audacious, most boldest plan that you can think of that will will literally change the face of rice forever? Whether you can execute it or not in real life is another story. But if you can put in the work to show how you're going to do it and have sufficient evidence to convince people that you can actually do it, then you will actually be able to do it, because then they will believe in you and give you the resources to do it. And so do you want to present the boldest plan you can? So we decided, okay, yes, we present the boldest, most audacious plan that we can ever dream of. That also meant redoing everything that we did in the past 2-3 months in the accelerator in 1-2 weeks. So our presentation was totally new, totally revamped. It was crazy, but we were still 7 minutes long. I remember our presentation was 7 minutes long and we had to be 6 minutes for the finals. So when we went for the rehearsal the day before, there was like this team which is supposed to help do our mics, because you are not allowed to mess up. Like there can be no technical errors at the UN because you just can't. Like you cannot be like, oops, let me flip back my previous slide. So actually what happens is, it's quite cool. You don't actually have a clicker. You have a clicker that sends a signal to a person, and that person then changes your slide so that you cannot accidentally flip back and forth. And you have to go through with that person your slide so that he knows exactly when to change it for you, so that he can tell if it's like you're making a mistake. When I was talking to the person, they were like, yeah, they do it for the Olympics. And he was talking like, yeah, I help Mariah Carey run her concert or Rihanna run a concert, things like that. So I was like, okay, well. So we were practicing with them and all the teams had their slots, right? to practice. Everything was well polished, super bang on 6 minutes. And then we came in and we practiced, and they were like, stop, it's time. Then they were like, oh, we still have like a minute to go. Then they were like, what? You have 7 minutes? Then I was like, yeah. Then we asked them, do you have any suggestions for us to cut down? Then they were like, maybe talk faster. And then we were like, can we try again? And then they were like, okay. So it became like a pitch practice section when it was supposed to be like them just doing a tech run. And they were like, okay, good luck. You guys have a lot of work to do. Then we were like, yeah, we know. Then they were like, yeah, good luck. Okay, tomorrow. And we went off. So we continued working, blah, blah. The next day, I remember we woke up, and the first thing that happened was we have been practicing late into the night, and we finally got it down to, I remember, 6 minutes 15 seconds. And we were like, this stubborn 15 second won't go away, because like we really don't know where else to cut. And we're like, okay, no, don't worry, we have the whole day 15, but we have to get to the UN on time because there's a lot of security procedures. So went through our morning routine, and then suddenly Kisam messages us, and he said, look, hey guys, the first dryer has been built and they're gonna harvest soon, so we're gonna have like our first customer either today or tomorrow. And then I was like, oh wow. Then we actually looked at the machine, that 20K that we raised, and went into building it. For the first time, we could actually see it on the very day we were going for UN. So like, okay, wow, this is good, we should go. We walk into the UN, and in the UN, because it's where a lot of important diplomats go, right? And HULT Prize happens the week before the UN Global Goals Week. So there's a lot of diplomats. So like even Mahathir was there. I think he was there about 3 days after the finals. So a lot of people were flying in. So security was very tight, and it's always very tight. So it's like airport like that. You have to go through multiple body scans. They'll scan your bags, everything. You're only allowed to bring a couple of things, and everyone has to be registered before. So that means that they need to do background checks on you. And then we walked in, and then we realized that Vanny's name was spelled wrong. So we were like, oh no. And then they were like, stop. They're like, she cannot move past this point. They were like, what? And then she cannot, they basically didn't let her in. Then we're like, how are we supposed to present with 3 people? Like, we can't just, like, you can't just have 4 and then suddenly become 3, right? And then the organizers was like, okay, we'll talk to them. And then they basically said that they're going to have to do like a background check on her, like emergency, to make sure she's like, not affiliated to a terrorist or something. And I was like, no, she's not. And then we were 3 men in basically at the UN. And according to her, I don't know the full story, but according to her, she had to go to this room apparently where she saw like inner workings of like the central place where like they were typing in. And then she was with the Under Secretary General, or the DepSec Gen, who was like there, and he was like, chat her with her, like became like buddies throughout the day, because they were like, oh, so it's like, what are you in here for? Then she was like, I think you guys gotta do a background check on me. I was like, he was like, in the end, he actually gave her his card. He was like, if you're ever in New York, you can like hit me up. Then I was like, whoa. But what happened was, so then we went in. Okay, we didn't panic, but we had to do like a bit of formatting of like, okay, what if she actually cannot present? Like, what do we have to do? Then we did the tech run, and we were cutting our script. I remember in the dressing room, right, all the other teams were like, are you editing your slides now? Like, aren't you supposed to have submitted them already yesterday? And they were like, oh yeah, they're giving us a final chance to submit it right before the tech run. So we submitted it right before our tech run. And then we did the tech run. And I remember we were 6 minutes, 1 second. And I remember the tech person was like, they were like, I don't know how you guys did it, but you guys managed to cut it in with still roughly the same story. And then I was like, yeah, a lot of work. And then later suddenly we were like, oh, actually, we just realized we missed out our team slide. So like we were not introducing our team, which was like a major thing that we always thought. So like, can we put in another variant? They were like, no, you can't anymore. Like, we've already given it to them. Like, there's no way. You guys just gonna have to deal with it. They were like, oh crap. So we actually presented, funnily enough, it meant that in the UN, we actually presented our second latest, not our latest slide. So with nothing else to do, we practice. We practice. And Vanny actually came in a couple of hours before. We were like, oh, thank God. And then as we were practicing, in the dressing room, there was this security guy at the UN, like you spoke about. He watched us. He was like, why are these 2 Asian kids like speaking to a wall, not speaking to each other? And then we basically told him, would you like to listen to our presentation? And then he was like, yeah, sure. So we brought our laptops, we presented to him. And then we asked him if he had any questions. And then he asked us a question about what would we do with the ash from our biomass powered dryers, because it basically was powered by a rice husk, wasted byproduct of the milling stage in the rice supply chain. So we told him, oh, we had sort of heard that it could be used for other uses, like maybe fertilizer. And then he was like, exactly. And then he explained to us, this is why. It's a good source of potassium. It's a good source of this chemical. This is how you convert it into fertilizers. And it's been done in blah, blah, blah. And we were like, whoa, how do you know all this? And he was like, I'm a security guard here at the UN, but back in Nigeria, where I'm from, I have a master's in agricultural science. And then we were like, wow, okay. I remember rushing back to my teammates and be like, okay, write this down now. in case they ever ask. And they did ask at the UN later on. Like, I think second or third question, it came up. And we just recited word for word for that presentation. I never saw that guy again. I would love to. I never saw it. We didn't even catch his name. I can't even remember what he looks like now, which is quite sad. But yeah, so you really don't know what's going to happen.
That is a wild story. I watched that final presentation and I was just stunned. You could see the shim on what you guys did. You had a huge panel of judges and the FAQ was just judge after judge after judge, just throwing all these random questions at you after you won. Like, what was the feeling? Like, what do you guys do?
I think simultaneously it was extreme amounts of joy and surprise, also disbelief. And at the same time, there was also a little bit of relief because it was finally, after a year, it was finally over. And we couldn't believe it. I think there's a photo of us, very funnily, when we were shaking hands with Bill Clinton, where I'm like bowing to him. And like one of my friends, she actually looked so shocked that she put her hand on her heart or something like that while she was shaking hands with him. So it was really just raw emotional glee and joy. And it was just like photo after photo, and you just sort of in disbelief, right? When you were walking around and everyone was congratulating you and we were thanking a lot of people, and people always want to take advantage of the networking, but honestly we were in a daze and we were walking around and people were talking to us, and I remember answering them, telling them thank you and shaking hands with them. And at one point I remember the trophy actually got a bit heavy and I had to keep holding it because people want to keep taking photos. So I would tell them, you want to hold it? And then they were like, yes. And then, so it ended up, I'll be like, keep passing it to the next person, the next person, the next person. And on that note, right, the Q&A that you watched, right, there's actually a part they didn't film where after the judges deliberated, right, there's a callback. So while everyone is eating dinner and everything, right, they call us back and that's where they will go at you in a room.
Further questions for you?
Oh yeah, a lot. It was a lot. I think it was half an hour. I remember because I was in the washroom and then suddenly someone came into the washroom like, Lincoln, are you here? And then I was like, yeah, what's up? They're like, we gotta go now. Like, oh, okay. Why? The judges are asking for us. I'm like, huh? Really? Then like, yeah, like, we gotta go. Prepare to answer like a lot of questions. They're like, okay. And then we went in and then just question after question after question. It was like a firing squad. But I think over there, the judges, they can ask a lot more because it's like a closed room, right? And then you get judges like walking around the room and like throwing questions at you. And that's where they really, really make the decision because it's part of the deliberation. They want to find out more.
That's when people like Ariana Huffington were also joining in as well, I think, remotely asking questions.
Yeah. Bill Clinton would come in at the end or something like that. So we didn't get to meet him in that Q&A session, but we got to meet him after that.
And so you had all those craziness, you're running on adrenaline. How did you end up getting stuck in the UN?
Right. So after the whole thing ended, we were going back to the dressing rooms and we were with another team, a team that we were eventually going to share accommodation with. We went back there, we packed up all of our stuff and everything was like all over the place. And I remember we packed all our stuff and I was like, oh, it's finally over. Congrats, guys. Good job, team. And our team and their team was like sitting down and we fell asleep on the tables there, literally like that. And we woke up later and it was an hour later. And so it was like midnight. And we were like, oh crap, it's dark. I don't know why, but apparently no one thought of going to the dressing room to check. Maybe because they thought that everyone had already cleared out because everyone was coming down from where the reception was. So I think they were more concerned about clearing out the reception. And everyone thought we had just gone. So, and we walked out and we were like, okay, there's still some lights on. So maybe it's still okay. We saw some people way in the distance when we were coming down the elevator and they were pushing something. And we were like, those are maintenance people. Okay. Anyway, let's just go lah. Okay, so we walked to the main entrance and then we realized, the main entrance shut? Okay, maybe we can just push it open. So we go there and we realize that it's not just shut. It's like properly shut. The UN has bank vault doors, like a feet thick of steel doors, like you see in the movies, like those round rotating. And I was like, whoa, like you can't open this one. Then I was like, wow, okay, we are properly stuck. So, and we were so exhausted, we were so stuck, right? And we were at the main foyer of the UN. I remember because we're carrying so many bags, so we're like, okay, let's just put all our bags down. So we put all our bags down. I remember one or two people actually lied on the floor. And it was like still openly bright. And then we are like, we're stuck at the UN at night. And I was like, then someone was like, do you want to like explore? Like, do you want to like go and explore? Because we didn't get a chance. Then I was like, yeah, sure, why not? We walk down the corridors and see. So we saw like the UNGA chambers, ECOSOC chambers through the windows and stuff like that. And we saw like all the placards and the, where you see in all the movies, all the mics and stuff. And I was like, wow, so this is where they actually do it. And I remember that in the entrance, there was this huge staircase going up and there's this rope, no entry. for public. I remember we had this like quick debate: should we or should we not? Should we or should we not? Because there were always security guards, but right now there's nobody. And they were like, are we gonna like stumble upon some international secret meeting going on up there or not? You know? But we decided not to because we didn't want to get arrested. We called the HULT Prize team members, like the global team organizers, and he FaceTimed us. I remember because he was in his hotel. And then he was like, about to go to sleep. He was like, yeah, congrats, guys. What do you want? Then I was like, hi. So, funny story, but like, we're stuck at the UN. And then he was like, he started laughing. He was like, ha ha ha, you're drunk. Then I was like, no, I'm serious. Then he was like, come on. He was like, it's not my first prank, you know? I was like, no, I'm serious. Then he was like, really? You're actually stuck? Then I was like, yes. I was like, okay. Turn on your camera and show me around first. And then I was like, okay, I turned it around. Then he saw around, he sort of like started laughing a bit, like, you guys are actually stuck in there. Then I was like, yes, can you get us out? And he was like, okay, let me make a few calls. And then he was like, hi guys. And everyone was like, hello, can you get us out? And so he was like, okay, let me make a few calls. So he called someone, but apparently we were found by security guards because they basically saw us wandering around the corridors on their cameras, and they were like, why are there like a bunch of students walking around the corridors in the middle of the night when it's supposed to be sealed already? So they quickly got us like, yeah, please go out. And like, here's the entrance. So we went out, and that wasn't the end of the day actually, because there was an after party. We were so tired. We were like, we are the winners. We can't not go to the after party. So we went to the after party. It was quite fun, but honestly, I just remember being so tired, and we've never slept so deeply after that. I remember. But yeah, that was an end to an interesting day.
Incredible. But let's not forget that you were still students, actually. So how were you balancing this entire year prepping for the competition with your studies? And then you ended up getting a first class with your degree, which I find is incredible because you managed to have all these other things going on at the same time. How do you balance it?
So I think for us, while we were preparing for a HULT Prize, in the lead up to it, it wasn't actually as intense as one might think. It's similar to running like a club, right? Being involved in a university extracurricular. So we sort of balanced it where we rested from our studies by working on writing and rested from writing by working on our studies. And it was still okay. What was really fun was when summer started and UCL's exams actually end quite early. So we actually got an extra month in the summer. And I remember like, as soon as my exams finished, we flew back immediately. I think within 2 days. Oh no, we went for that competition I spoke about. Then later, as soon as that was done, we flew back. And so we had like a whole month extra added to our summer to really, really start on this. But it was honestly quite a challenge, I think, at the end. Because if you think about what we did at the end, it was, I think, close to 5 months since we had studied. I left my final exam not having gone to Myanmar. I came back to UCL having won the HULT Prize. We hadn't even gone to the accelerator at that point. So all the things that we had experienced, it was just a totally different world. I came a month late into my third year. And when I sat down for the first time and went for a lecture again, I was like, this is so different. Like, it was just so surreal, it was so different. And I think what the decision we made after in our final year was that it was actually became quite a struggle to juggle both. So we made the decision to, in the middle of that year, to take a break from writing and finish our studies first. That's where we actually really sat down and cracked on our studies and worked really hard and applied some of the techniques we had learned running our business onto our studies in order to get the best results.
What were the techniques?
I mean, it's just like studying techniques. Like at the end of the day, right, we knew where our expertise lies. So we had some modules that we could take, which were more business oriented, like life science, business and life sciences. Our projects had to be something we knew how to tackle it in a more systematic way. Like, okay, we want to prove A, B, and C. How do we actually do it in real life? Most people do it theoretically, but since we have experience piloting, we can also pilot in real life. How do I take an exam, which I know that the information is all over the place and too much for me to digest, but I still need to score. You know, the lecturers are still human. They also follow certain patterns, certain topics they like more. So can you study those topics more in depth? Things like this. And it actually became easier to study because we had sort of done something that was a bit more, I guess, more challenging than just studying and taking an exam. So studying and taking an exam became more of like, okay, we know the answer to A is B. In business and running your own startup, the answer to A is not going to be B. But in some of your exams, there will be a situation like that. So it became more of like, okay, we just need to focus and do it. And that's how we did it up. We took a break, we finished our studies, graduated, and then we started writing full time.
So you graduated, you started writing with $1 million. What was the plan? Now you were going to do it for real.
I think the first plan that we realized was we had to then started consulting a lot, because now they are investors and they've invested in our company. So they also have an idea of what they want us to do. And they correctly spoke with us and identified that a part of the supply chain they wanted to tackle was the end consumer. The farmer has a great product. You've helped him make his rice better quality, reduce the waste, more environmentally friendly. It doesn't matter if he can't sell it for a higher value. How do you get that higher value? So we started to enter the F&B market, merchanting our rice in the UK, leveraging on all of our networks and low-hanging fruits there. And that was a totally new industry, totally new experience as well. We had to learn a lot in the past 2 years to understand how do we tackle that market. We also, made a couple of mistakes early on because we are not business students. So we didn't know, okay, what's the procedure to set up a company? How do I set it up legally? How do I set it up accounting-wise? What is tax? Simple questions. It's not that we're unaware of them. We just don't have the knowledge because we never encountered it in biomed. So we had to learn all of that as we went along.
Were you not tempted to set up back home in Southeast Asia, where it's closer to the production?
So we did set up in Malaysia as well. But I think what we realized was that at the time, the opportunity in UK was lower hanging for us. We wanted to capture it because of the price, right? We had gotten into a lot of very influential networks, and we were speaking to a lot of people who could, if they came in and they said that, yes, I will support you, it would have made all the difference because they have the power at the end of the supply chain. These are like major corporations who can then put up pressure on the supply chain, incentivize farmers to basically be more sustainable, incentivize supply chain to be more ethical. It's a bit like fair trade, where you needed Starbucks to come in to tell the fair trade farmers that I want your fair trade coffee. And if you can prove to me it's fair trade coffee, then you can sell to me. I'm Starbucks. And all the farmers then started to move towards it. No one really wanted to go against Starbucks. So yeah, it's that concept.